The quarterback position is by far the most important position in football, and is the main reason why a team is either really good or really bad. So today I'm ranking every team's starting quarterback from worst to best. Now these rankings are going to be based off a mix of how good I think they're going to be now, and how I think they're going to play this upcoming season. So without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 32 is going to be the first-year starter from Washington, Sam Howe. Drafted in the 5th round of the 2022 NFL Draft, Sam Howe has a chance to become the franchise's new starting quarterback for years to come. But if Howe struggles in his first year, and Washington is in position to draft a quarterback in next year's draft, Howe's reign as Washington's quarterback could end just as quick as it started. Howe started the last game of the season for the Commanders and didn't look half bad, throwing for 169 yards on 58% completion percentage, and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And with Howe having an above average receiving core to throw to, there should be no excuse for him to play bad, but I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of UNC, so I do have my doubts. Coming in at number 31, I have another quarterback going into his first full season as a starter with Atlanta's Desmond Ritter. Another quarterback from the 2022 NFL Draft, drafted in the 3rd round, Atlanta looks to have high hopes for Ritter going into his sophomore season. And with Mariota off the team, it looks like it's going to be Ritter mania for the Falcons in 2023. And like Howe, Ritter has an above average, though underrated receiving core, led by sophomore receiver Drake London, and he'll also have the bright young star tight end to throw to in Kyle Pitts. Ritter does have his flaws, as he's not the most accurate or technically sound quarterback in the world, and also likely has just as short of a leash as Howe does this upcoming season. Coming in at number 30, I have Baker Mayfield. This is most likely his last chance to show that he can be a starter in this league, as he's got a fresh start with Tampa Bay. Although he is currently in a battle with Kyle Trask for the starting job, but I do have faith that Baker will win the job, even though I don't think he's going to do much with it. Ever since he last played in Cleveland, he hasn't looked good at all. He was a complete failure for Carolina, and aside from his impressive first start for LA, looked to be pretty underwhelming there too. I'm not sure if Baker is going to be a starter in this league for much longer, as he's just far too inconsistent. Coming in at number 29, I have the first rookie quarterback on the list, Anthony Richardson. And just like most rookie quarterbacks, I think he's going to have his ups and his downs. And out of the quarterbacks drafted that will probably be starters, Richardson is the most unpolished. There's no argument he's one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks to ever play the game, with his unreal athleticism and cannon of an arm, but I'm very worried that his pure passing ability will struggle early on, and he's going to have to rely a lot on his legs to get him out of trouble. I could easily see him getting off to a slow start passing wise, throwing multiple picks and having his confidence tank, but I do have faith that he'll end the season on a high note. At number 28, I have another rookie quarterback, CJ Stroud, who the Texans took with their 2nd overall pick out of Ohio State. Stroud isn't going into the best of situations talent-wise this season by any means, with his number 1 target most likely being either Robert Woods, who barely surpassed 500 receiving yards last season, or first-year starter John Mechie, who is coming back from a bout with leukemia. I do think that Stroud has the highest floor of the quarterbacks drafted, with his good accuracy and poise in the pocket, but I do see him struggling in his first year due to lack of weapons in that offense. At number 27, I have Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy. Last season, Brock Purdy went undefeated in the regular season when he started, going 6-0 and led the 49ers to the conference championship before getting injured, tearing his UCL ligament in his elbow. And after his terrific start to his career, the hype for the greatest Mr. Irrelevant to ever play the game was unreal. And I just think we need to pump the brakes on the Purdy hype just a bit. There was a reason he wasn't a first round pick. His arm talent isn't anything to write home about, and he was surrounded by multiple Pro Bowlers in that offense. I think he's going to be a solid starter for years to come, but let's be real. He isn't the second coming of Tom Brady, no matter how bad you want him to be. At number 26, I have Jordan Love. And although being drafted in the 1st round 3 years ago by the Packers, 2023 will be Love's first year starting, so he's had plenty of time to refine his skills while sitting behind one of the greatest to ever do it. It's going to be hard to step into that role that was filled by an all-time great for so many years, but there's an uncanny similarity in the situation that happened 15 years ago when Aaron Rodgers stepped in for Brett Favre, who also left for the Jets and played amazing year 1. But I don't see the Packers striking gold for the 2nd time in a row, so you can breathe a sigh of relief, Bears fans. Daddy's gone. Coming in at 25, I have the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, out of Alabama. Carolina hasn't had a quarterback of this caliber since Superman Cam back in 2015, so I expect big things for Bryce Young, just maybe not year 1. Going from college to the NFL is a big jump, and like I said earlier, almost every quarterback has their struggles year 1, and I don't expect Bryce Young to be the exception. Young has a fearless playstyle regardless of his size and has pinpoint accuracy inside the pocket as well as outside the pocket. But like Stroud, Young doesn't have much talent to throw to. He has newly acquired Adam Thielen from Minnesota, who is more than past his prime, and rookie receiver from Ole Miss, Jonathan Mingo. So I would temper my expectations year one for Young. At number 24, I have Patriots quarterback Mac Jones, who struggled last season, but I think a lot of people would when your head coach decides to make a defensive coordinator an offensive coordinator for no apparent reason. Matt Patricia did Jones absolutely no favors last season, but according to reports coming out from training camp, Bill O'Brien is doing much better with Mac Jones. So I can see Mac being an above average game manager for years to come, but I don't see him ever being a top 10 quarterback in his career. At number 23, I have sophomore quarterback Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. Expectations weren't too high for Pickett last year, at least not for me, but he impressed in a big way last year, and I expect him to take the next step in 2023. He has second-year receiver George Pickens as well as Deontay Johnson to throw to, which I expect both to take a jump this year as well. And with a solid defense, I think Kenny Pickett has a chance to lead the Steelers to the playoffs next season. Coming in at number 22, I have Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. This could be his last season in Tennessee, with young quarterback Will Levis set to hold the clipboard for him in 2023. I do think Tannehill can be a starter past 2023 though, just maybe not in Tennessee. He may be towards the end of his career, but he can still manage games at a high level and hand the ball off to an elite running back at a high level as well, like he's done for the past few years. At 21, I have Russell Wilson, and I expect him to have somewhat of a bounce back season in 2023, and for Denver Broncos fans' sake, I hope he does, because there's no getting out of that contract anytime soon. But I have faith in Sean Payton as a coach to fix Wilson's problems and turn him back into that quarterback he was in Seattle, or at least close to it. Wilson still has the talent in my opinion, I just think he let the media get to him a bit last year, and he's going to have an improved wide receiver core to throw to, with Tim Patrick coming back from injury, and hopefully a fully healthy season from Jerry Jeudy. Coming in at number 20, I have Justin Fields. This is going to be a pivotal season for both Fields and Chicago. Their Bears finally surrounded him with good enough weapons to really see if he's going to be that next franchise quarterback, and we already know what Fields can do with his legs, but we've yet to see what he can become as a reliable passer. But I think that all changes this upcoming season, and I expect Fields to have a really good season and solidify himself as the next franchise quarterback for Chicago. Coming in at number 19, I have Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. 2022 was a season to forget for him, as he was injured most of the season, and when he did play, he didn't look that great. But I think he still has enough juice in that arm for one more halfway decent season. The Rams aren't built to be a contender right now, but I think Stafford can pull together a couple of wins here and there next season. At number 18, I've got Geno Smith. And who thought a year ago he'd be considered a top 20 quarterback in the league? However, I do think his 2022 season was a bit of a fluke, and I doubt he'll be able to replicate that same production twice. But Seattle did help him by bringing in rookie receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, so Geno Smith will have plenty of weapons at his disposal, and I think any somewhat capable quarterback would do pretty good in that offense. Coming in at number 17, I have Daniel Jones, Mr. Danny Dimes himself. With the help of head coach Brian Daboll, Daniel Jones looked to have some promise last season, which resulted in him getting absolutely paid. I think Daboll does a good job at hiding Jones' deficiencies, and with them adding tight end Darren Waller via trade, and also bringing in a couple of receivers like Paris Campbell and Jalen Hyatt, I don't see why Jones can't further improve from his 2022 campaign. Coming in at 16, I have Kyler Murray. And although he's probably going to miss the majority of the season, I still wanted to include him on this list. The former number 1 overall pick has showed flashes of being a good enough quarterback to win a Super Bowl, but he's also showed flashes of why the Cardinals should move on from him. Because of his height, it's hard for him to throw down the middle of the field, and teams have caught on to that, which makes him almost one-dimensional in a way. But he is also super talented running the ball and scrambling the pocket. But if he comes back from his ACL injury not being able to do that as well, he could end up being way lower on this list. Coming in at number 15, I have Deshaun Watson from the Cleveland Browns. Coming off of his suspension last year, he looked to be a shell of himself. But you have to realize the man didn't play a real snap of football in over a year and a half, and we'll not get into the reasons why. But he's going to have some rust. I really do think Watson can have a bounce back season, and he may not ever get to the caliber he was in Houston, but I think he can be an above average quarterback for the Browns, which may be a bummer for the team since they're paying him like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ. Coming in at number 14, I have Jimmy Garoppolo from the Las Vegas Raiders. And as of the recording of this video, there's talks that he may or may not be ready for the start of the season, but we're going to pretend that he is because I think he will. Now, If you look up the word mid in the dictionary, you may or may not see a picture of good old Jimmy G in there. But this year, he does have one of the best receivers in the league on his team, and Jimmy's shown that he's good enough to lead a team to a deep playoff run. Now, will he? That's for another video. At number 13, I have Derek Carr from the New Orleans Saints. Almost like Garoppolo, I don't see him ever being a top 10 quarterback, but if you surround him with really good weapons, he can suffice as a starting quarterback for a Super Bowl team. He is leaving Las Vegas where he had the luxury of playing with Devontae Adams, but he is going into a situation in New Orleans with an up-and-coming young receiver in Chris Olave and a healthy Michael Thomas, so I expect another solid but not great season from Derek Carr. Coming in at number 12, I have Jared Goff. And I think the Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson can make almost any quarterback thrive in that offense, but Goff has shown that he can lead a team to the Super Bowl, and last season Goff played some of the best football of his career, and I don't see that being much of a fluke either. He has a great target in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams once he serves his 6-week suspension, so I could easily see him finishing higher than 12, but I had a hard time putting him over some of these other guys on the list. At number 11, I have Kirk Cousins, or should I say Kirk Thuggins. Any quarterback with Justin Jefferson to throw to is going to have a successful season. Kirk has made a career out of not being bad enough for his team to finish low enough to draft his replacement, nor good enough to be able to make a serious playoff push. So you can always rely on Kirk to get you a solid 9 wins every season and keep your team stuck in mediocrity. Cracking the top 10, I have Tua Tagovailoa, and yes, many people make fun of him for having the arm strength of a 10-year-old and being one more hit to the head away from being in a retirement home. But all jokes aside, he is a smart quarterback with good accuracy, and when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw to, life as a quarterback can be pretty easy. I think he's going to finish towards the top of the league in passing yards as long as he stays healthy. Coming in at number 9, I have Dak Prescott, and if you ask Cowboys fans, he's a top 5 quarterback, and though I wouldn't go that far, I do think he hovers around that top 10 spot, and he didn't have the best season last year and threw his fair share of interceptions, but the Cowboys added some weapons to that offense, and Dak has shown when he has good enough weapons, he can play like a top 10 quarterback in this league. At number 8, I have Lamar Jackson, and I think from here on out is where you hit that elite level of quarterbacks in this league. And Jackson just signed a shoddy new contract. The Ravens added OBJ to that receiving room, and they hired new offensive coordinator Todd Monken. And with all those 3 things mixed together, I think that makes a really productive season for Lamar in 2023 as long as he stays healthy. Coming in at number 7, I have Trevor Lawrence. And I think last season was his breakout season. He ended the season on a really high note, and I think he carries that into next season as well. He's a prototypical quarterback in today's NFL. He's smart and processes the field great. He has amazing arm talent, and I think he's an underrated athlete as well. He'll also have Calvin Ridley, who's coming back from a suspension. So with him and Christian Kirk to throw to, I think he's going to have a really big season, and it'll push him into that top 5 QB consideration. Coming in at number 6, I have New Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He's definitely up there in age and is by far the oldest quarterback I have in the top 10. But he was just back-to-back MVP not too long ago. And though he didn't play great in 2022, he wasn't in the best of situations either. And I think he already had one foot out the door in Green Bay. So with a new fresh situation with a better receiving core, I don't see why he doesn't have somewhat of a bounce-back season in 2023. Coming in at number 5, I have Justin Herbert. His arm talent is amazing, and he's in a pretty pass-heavy offense there in LA. And I think this will be the season he solidifies his spot as a top 5 quarterback in this league. As long as his 2 top receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, stay healthy, which is a big if, he could be towards the top of the league in passing yards this upcoming season. At number 4, I have Jalen Hurts. And if you asked me a year ago if Hurts would be a top 5 quarterback, I would have laughed at you. But he improved in almost every aspect of his game last season and took his team to the Super Bowl. So the question with Hurts is if that season was a bit of a fluke or if he's here to stay as an elite quarterback in this league. And if I was a betting man, which I am, I think he replicates last season and maybe even adds on to it stats-wise. He's in a great situation with a good coaching staff, even though his coach can be a bit of a man-child at times. Coming in at number 3, I have Josh Allen. The top 3 is where it gets a little bit tricky. Allen did have a bit of a down year last year, especially turnover-wise, and I think a lot of it had to do with Brian Daboll leaving to coach the Giants. But Allen has all the talent and tools in the world, and I think he turns it around in 2023 and leads the Bills to a deep playoff push. Coming in at number 2, I have Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals are my pick to win it all next season, which means I think Burrow is going to have a lights-out year throwing the ball. He has the best receiving core in the NFL and is one of the last pure pocket passers in the league, as the NFL is moving more towards the dual-threat quarterbacks rather than the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady style quarterback. But when you have the accuracy and timing Burrow does, he doesn't really have to leave the pocket all that much. And coming in at number 1, to no one's surprise, I have the man himself, the best quarterback in the league, and it's not all that close, Patrick Mahomes. The way Patrick Mahomes plays the game is just so fun to watch. The way he's able to maneuver the pocket and evade pressure is special, and some of the throws he makes is just mind-boggling. He's already been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them, and he's still got a long career ahead of him. I don't see any quarterback dethroning him from that top spot for a long time, and I think Mahomes could go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. So that's my ranking of every team's starting quarterback. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you agree or disagree on any of my rankings down in the comments. And if you liked the video, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. It really helps the channel out a lot. And as always, I'm the Draft Nerd, and thanks for watching.